I was walking through the mall with my younger brother when a group of women near the fountain stopped talking and stared at my face as if I were a monster in a horror movie. I have a large red birthmark that covers the right side of my cheek and neck, something I've lived with my whole life. But today it felt like a target painted on my skin. One of them actually pointed at me and whispered something to her friend, who then pulled out her phone to take a picture while I was just trying to buy a pair of shoes. I felt my face start to burn and my eyes sting with tears I refused to let fall in front of them. My brother Sam noticed them staring and he stepped in front of me, his face turning into a scowl that usually only comes out when he's playing competitive sport. "Leave her alone," he shouted, but they just laughed and walked away, still looking back over their shoulders and whispering to each other. I've spent 20 years trying to be confident and telling myself that my appearance doesn't define me. But in 10 seconds, those strangers had managed to make me feel like I was nothing more than a curiosity for them to gawk at. I wanted to run to the car and never come out of my house again. We sat down on a bench near the exit and I kept my hand over the side of my face, trying to hide the mark that I usually wear with pride. "Why did they do that, Sam?" I asked, and he just looked at me with a sad kind of anger. "Because they're small people who have nothing better to do than try to make someone else feel bad," he said. I looked at the shoppers passing by and I realized that every time someone glanced my way, I was assuming they were judging me, even if they were just looking at the store windows. The embarrassment had turned into a kind of poison that was starting to change how I saw the entire world. Just as I was about to get up and leave, a little girl who couldn't have been more than 5 years old wandered away from her mother and came over to our bench. She stared at my face for a long time, her eyes wide with curiosity, and I braced myself for a rude comment or for her to run away in fear. Instead, she reached out her small hand and touched my cheek right where the birthmark was darkest. "It looks like a flower," she said, her voice full of a genuine wonder that caught me completely off guard. Her mother ran over and apologized, looking embarrassed, but I just smiled at the little girl and felt the tension in my chest finally start to snap. I realized that the women by the fountain weren't the voice of the world. They were just one ugly part of it that I didn't have to listen to. I stood up and took my hand away from my face, looking at my reflection in the fountain's water and seeing the woman I had worked so hard to become. I thanked the little girl and walked back into the shoe store with my head held high, ignoring the few people who still turned their heads to. I bought the most expensive pair of boots they had, and I walked past the fountain on my way out without looking for the group of women who had started it all. The embarrassment didn't disappear completely, but it lost its power over me that day. I realized that people will always stare at things they don't understand, but I don't have to be the one who feels ashamed of their ignorance. I still have days where I want to hide, but then I think of that little girl and I remember that the world sees what you choose to show it. I wear my hair up more often now, letting the mark show clearly, and if someone stares for too long, I just look them right in the eye until they're the ones who have to turn away.